Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to series 2 of Question Time, the Ramadan edition. This show, organized by Majlis Khudam Ahmadiyya United Kingdom, aims to inshallah answer all of your Ramadan related questions and queries. Question Time will inshallah be live every Friday evening to answer and elaborate on any questions or queries that you might have. Send in your questions via text, video, or audio via WhatsApp, email, or social media, and our panel of missionaries will inshallah answer them live on the show. Joining me today are Mansoor Ziasab and Ayaz Mahmood Khan Sab. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Mansoor Ziasab, this of course, alhamdulillah, this is our third show so far in Ramadan. Moving on to our first question, which is one that I, just before we went live, of course, we were sharing a comment on how often this question comes up, but of course it is good that people are elaborating upon this and understanding this in a bit more depth. Mansoor Ziasab, if someone is ill, should he pay the fidya or should he make up the fast? This is a very common question. Could you please shine some light on this?
Actually, if we look at the different people, I mean, why they are ill, for example, there are two types of illness. One type of illness, it is, it is a temporary illness. And the second one is that a person is permanent ill, and there's no chance that he can be cured. For example, sometimes it's an old age, sometimes it's a diabetes type 2. So there are these kind of illnesses that are, you can say, that are permanent illnesses. In those cases, definitely, according to the verse, وَلَلَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, that those people who are able to fast with great difficulty, I mean, there's no chance that they can fast, for them there is an expiation, and that is the feeding of a poor man. So in this case, if the illness is permanent, so definitely they would only pay fidya. But the second type of people that are, I mean, temporary ill, and they cannot fast, I mean, for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. For them, again, we'll go towards this verse, and for them also this verse states, and Hazrat Masih Maud Islam has explained it in his writings also. Hazur said that for them, basically, there's no fidya. I mean, those people who are able to fast after getting, getting better, after getting cured, they can be able to, they can fast. For them, there is no fidya, no expiation. But Hazrat Masih Muslim said that, yes, if they give fidya, if they pay that expiation, it is better for them, because in this way, what would happen, that it will enable you to fast during, in the coming days and in the future. Because I know that some people, they cannot fast even if the next Ramadan has arrived and they had not fast. So in this case, Hazrat Masih Muslim has made it very clear that if you pay fidya and you are able to, you are rich enough to pay fidya, so definitely you should pay this, and Allah Ta'ala will enable you basically to complete those fasts in the future.
I think that's a very interesting way as well. Of course, I think people realizing that fidya is a way of enabling one to be able to do the fast. And Mansoor Ziasab, if I'm not wrong, Hazrat Masih Maud practice himself was that he would do the fast and also pay the fidya as well.
Yes, definitely. In number of occasions, he has said that I prayed to Allah the Almighty, oh Allah Ta'ala, why you have made an expiation or fidya compulsory? He said, then I came to realize, and Allah Ta'ala put this in my mind, that paying fidya basically enables you to fast in the future and to cure you definitely.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah ahsan for that. Asad, there's a question that's come in from Southwest London. Nothing to say about the area, but a khadim from Southwest London has sent in a question, and it's an important one because it talks about an issue which many people have gone through, especially compounding it with the lockdown and COVID-19, and it is about mental health. The question reads, what can someone with undiagnosed anxiety, especially such that it becomes aggravated around suhoor time, do to alleviate the pressures of Ramadan? And the follow-up in that is, does this undiagnosed illness warrant an exemption from doing all 30 days, or is it not really included in the mariz or the sick category?
Jazakallah, Mansoor Sahib. I think the first part of the question about how a person can alleviate their mental anxiety, or anxiety in general during the month of Ramadan, is just to do the best that you can without overly putting pressure on yourself. Allah the Almighty is a very merciful God, and the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a man who came to make religion easy for the common man, if you will, for men and women alike, but to teach them that they can develop a closer relationship with Allah the Almighty just by ensuring that they do the best they can and not to overly burden ourselves in a way which is unsustainable, essentially. And so during the month of Ramadan, if a person feels that certain mental conditions obstruct them from fasting, then of course this is something sort of alleviate that tension and that difficulty and that strain, is just to partake in as much of the aspects of Ramadan as possible. If fasting is difficult, then maybe get up in the morning and offer some prayers. But don't fast during the day if it's difficult to continue the fast during the day. If there are other difficulties in specific, just let's say, for example, a person could read as much of the Holy Quran as possible. Remember Allah, recite durood. Hazur Anwar Ayyadahullahu Ta'ala bin Nasr Aziz today delivered a beautiful Friday sermon on the excellences of Durood Sharif. So this is something which the promised Messiah والسلام, has also mentioned, that Durood is something which not only gives our heart comfort, but it also becomes a source of our spiritual elevation as well. So reciting Durood, reciting Istighfar, reciting as much of the Holy Quran as possible, getting up in the morning insofar as possible, and partaking in the suhoor. If anything, the main thing to remember is to just do your best and know that Allah knows your individual condition. The Holy Quran is a beautiful book. It doesn't stipulate specifically the definition of a marid. It doesn't say that a sick or ailing man is only considered to be sick and ailing and thus exempt from the fast when they are suffering from such and such conditions, which means that Allah the Almighty has left that open for us to decide and to be our own best judge. The Holy Quran teaches us, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ has emphasized the importance of our intention. So if our intentions are pure and we in our heart of hearts know that it is difficult for me to fast for such and such reason, we don't owe anybody an explanation. Nobody owes anybody else an explanation. Nobody needs to justify why they aren't fasting. That is between them and Allah, between a man, a person, and God. So we need to ask ourselves this question: if there is a physical or mental condition which obstructs a person from fasting and they feel very uncomfortable for any reason whatsoever, then that is something that they will decide themselves. And if they feel comfort in not fasting because fasting aggravates them in any way, then let them take part in the other things which are so beautiful in the month of Ramadan, like reciting the Quran, like praying, like reciting Durood Sharif, and just remembering God in general. Just, going out into the open air and taking deep breaths and remembering Allah, looking at the clouds and the beautiful greenery around them. And if they live in a populated city center, then just walking around and observing life in general and thinking about Allah. This is also a form of worship. So if we're doing something for the sake of Allah the Almighty for His pleasure, then Allah the Almighty is merciful. And we, again, I emphasize, every individual is the best judge of their own condition. And so Allah the Almighty recognizes that and is a merciful God.
Jazakumullah. I like the no explanation is required, although keeping the first answer in mind, expiation might be required. So I think that's
absolutely
that's a good takeaway from there. Moving on to our next question, which is coming in from.
Yes, please. Also, I was thinking that why the person have a kind of anxiety of, especially the pressure of Ramadan. I couldn't quite understand it, but as Ayasab has said, very beautifully, that he need to remember Allah the Almighty and he need to pray to Allah the Almighty. Oh, Allah Ta'ala, alleviate my pain if there is anything, because Hazrat Masih Muslim has very beautifully said that if a person would pray to Allah the Almighty with whole his heart, with the right intention, and oh Allah Ta'ala, please enable me to fast. This is your blessed month, and I am the one that who is not fasting. So in this way, Allah Ta'ala will enable him to keep fast of that month of Ramadan. And if in any case he is not able to fast, Hazrat Masih Muslim said that his heart is, basically his heart, it is his heartful desire to fast, but he is not able to fast in that way, in that condition. The angels, they would fast on his behalf. So this is a very beautiful, way of basically alleviating the mental pain, you can say, that people might have.
Absolutely. I think that's a very wonderful point to say. I think encapsulating Allah bi zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub, that remembrance of Allah, the comfort of the hearts is in the remembrance of Allah. I think that's a beautiful point to make. Jazakumullah. Moving on to our next question, which is from Muhammad Shahid Saab from Stevenage. And again, this is a question that's come up many times. Again, it's important that we cover this properly and learn from this. Muhammad Shahid Saab asks, Masood Zia Saab, this is directed to you. Is there a way to make up the fasts that were missed in the previous years? And what is the correct way of doing so?
Basically, when any person wants to complete those fasts that he has never, he has missed due to any reason, sometimes due to ignorance, sometimes due to lack of knowledge, or lack of, you can say, lack of good health. So any reason, he can fast and he can complete those fasts. And Hazrat Muslim Maud Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu has given us a very, you can say, a very moderate way to complete those fasts. He said that if he has a really inner desire, so he need to make those fasts in basically, what we say, in the क्या कहते हैं उसको, the December, the month of December,
the winter months.
In the winter months, the months during the winter, because in that time the days are very short, so he can complete that. And as Masih Muslim said that if it is not possible for him, so Allah Ta'ala says, La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha, that Allah Ta'ala does not burden people beyond their capacities. So in that case, they can give, they can pay expiation for some of the fasts they couldn't fast. They couldn't keep, and the others leave the others and then make a strong pledge from Allah with Allah the Almighty that, oh Allah Ta'ala, I'm not going to miss any fast in the future. So in this way, Allah Ta'ala will enable him.
Brilliant. Jazakumullah for that. A very concise and useful answer that I hope many people will take advantage from at home. Ayasa, moving on to our next question, which is coming in from Oxford, which is Ismail Mansoor Saab asking, again, a very important one. Can we travel while fasting? A very short question, which I believe will require a little bit more of a detailed answer.
Ji, Mansoor Sahib. So, in light of the famous verse in Surah Al-Baqarah, which relates to fasting, in those few verses, it's clearly mentioned that we should not fast whilst we are on a journey. That is the summary or the brief answer, that when a person is traveling, when they are fasting, they should not travel. Or rather, when a person is traveling, they should not fast. It's one and the same thing. And I will explain that, because essentially, firstly and foremost, we need to understand that Allah the Almighty, the true and real blessing is in following the commandments of Allah the Almighty. The promised Messiah والسلام, has very beautifully explained that true righteousness and virtue lies in acting upon those commandments which Allah the Almighty has given for us to perform certain actions, and then to refrain from certain things. And when Allah the Almighty has given us a relaxation, or He has instructed that we should not perform a certain act of worship in certain circumstances, then forcing ourselves, and rather forcing the hand of God, which is an impossible thing. Nobody can force the hand of God to perform that act of worship and say that I will take a reward from Allah the Almighty because I have the ability to do so, is a disobedience to Allah the Almighty. So Allah the Almighty says that we should fast when we are not traveling. Therefore, sometimes this question comes up as well, that this instruction was perhaps for the olden times when traveling was very strenuous and difficult and facilities weren't available. Now all sorts of facilities are available and it's very easy to travel and fast. But the promised Messiah والسلام, has very eloquently explained that the instruction remains the same. And it does not say anywhere that if there are facilities available, then during the journey, then we should fast, and we should also continue our journey. So again, the definition is that if a person, traveling is something that a person knows about in advance in most cases. So for those days, a person should either try and book their journeys and their travels for a time when they're not fasting, before and after Ramadan. Or if it is necessary that a person must take a journey during the month of Ramadan, then they should benefit from the relaxation which Allah the Almighty has given them, because essentially at that time, not fasting while we are on a journey is how we will be acting upon the commandments of Allah the Almighty, and that will be our reward from Allah the Almighty. And then of course we can make that fast up later. If, for example, someone is fasting and they have to go on an urgent journey, something comes up out of the blue and it wasn't planned, again, they should break their fast on that specific day. They should take that journey, which is an urgent journey that cannot be put off, and then they should make that fast up after the month of Ramadan, as Allah the Almighty has instructed.
Jazakumullah ahsan jaza. Thank you very much for that. Mansoor Saab, there is an adjoining question which has been sent in from Sikandar Saab from Huddersfield, and I was wondering if there's anything more that you would perhaps like to add to this. Sikandar Saab basically asks, he says, if I have to travel for 3 or 5 hours for a meeting, so it is for work purposes, would that be classed as a journey? Is there anything that I know we've covered to quite a large extent all of the points, but is there anything else that you would like to add?
I think that if it is a part of the work, so in that case, it won't be considered a journey, basically. You know, Hazrat Promised Messiah Islam has made it very clear to all of us that if a person, it is a job of a person to travel from one place to another, or it is anything that is part of his job. So in that case, he can he is not exempted from the fast, because in this way he can say that I will do namaz-e-qasr, and I will I will not fast because I am on a journey. So Huzur said that he will not be considered on a journey if it is a part of the work. But if it is not the part of the work, so in that case, it is up to him what that how he can decide. It is up to his own intention, or the journey. Or sometimes it could happen that it is the part of the work, but it is not a regular journey. I mean, it is an exceptional journey. It is not as it is not considered as part of the work as it is a normal routine of his traveling. It is a special job, or he has to go on a special job, and it's a special journey. He had to take his bag with him. So in that case, yes, he can open his fast, as Ayaz Mahmood Khan Sahab has eloquently mentioned it. And the second thing is, but if it is not the part of his job and he have to travel sometimes, it is on an exceptional basis, and he had to go there. In that case, we will think that he is basically going to make his decision whether he want to fast it or not, because the definition of the travel that has a promised Messiah Islam make it very clear that it is your intention, and it is basically it is we say that in maruf, it is maruf for you to decide that this is a part of my travel, and I am on travel basically. So in that case, Hazrat Prophet said that you can decide whether you are traveling or not.
Jazakumullah Hasan. A very poignant and concise answer. Then I hope that helps. Sikandar Saab from Huddersfield, who actually has a follow-up question. After his 3 or 5 hour traveling for his meeting, he says that if I am late for Tarawih, should I join congregation or should I offer the missed prayers first? I'm not sure if they are both together in terms of time, but they're both from the same person from Huddersfield. So if I'm late for Tarawih, should I join the congregation or should I offer the missed prayers first? Ayasa, what would you say to this answer, or this question rather?
Ji, I think in order to understand the answer to this question, some brief background to Tarawih is important. What is Tarawih prayer? Tarawih prayer is specifically something which is offered after Isha and during the month of Ramadan. The background about this is that Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, the second Khalifa of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he observed that during the month of Ramadan, many people were offering their nawafil prayers separately in the mosque, their own individual prayers, voluntary prayers. And he saw this for a couple of days, and he thought that this is a very wonderful thing and a very beautiful thing. So he said that instead of offering separately, he instructed that everybody should offer as one congregation to reap as much blessings as possible. So again, that's why we offer Tarawih prayer in congregation. It's a way in which Hufaz recite as much of the Holy Quran as possible. We have an opportunity to hear the Quran, a large portion of the Quran. The whole Quran is covered in many cases. So it's a voluntary prayer, which also is a good replacement for those people who genuinely feel it very difficult to get up in the morning and offer tahajjud prayer. Of course, nothing can, I'm very cautious when I say this, nothing can replace the tahajjud prayer. Tahajjud prayer is tahajjud prayer, which the Holy Prophet ﷺ offered, and we should all endeavor to offer it in the morning. But some people who find it very difficult to do so, this is one way in the month of Ramadan that they can offer those rakats, the same number of rakats or units of prayer in the evening before going to sleep. But it's voluntary. It's not a prescribed compulsory prayer. Therefore, if a person happens to come late and a few rakats have finished, let's say 4 rakats have been offered, and he joins in the third set of 2, they're offered in sets of 2. He's not required to first complete those prayers which he has missed and then join the congregation, because it's not like a person joining the Asr prayer in congregation without offering Zuhr first. In that case, he would have to stop and first offer the Zuhr prayer and then join the congregation for Asr. again, that rule is not applicable in the case of a voluntary prayer and in the case of Tarawih. So,
Thank you very much for that. So again, it's a voluntary prayer, so it does not need to be made up when one arrives or if one arrives late for Tarawih. Moving to our next question, Mansoor Yasab. This is an interesting one. It's about hydration, which I think is on everyone's mind during the Roza anyway. A Khadim from Middlesex asks, is it okay to bring a water bottle to the mosque for Tarawih prayers and drink some water after each set of the 2 rakats in order to drink enough water during Ramadan?
Thank you. Actually, I don't think that there's any harm in it because, when you have opened your fast, and the Quran Kareem very clearly said, Summa atimmu siyama ila layl, that you need to complete your fast until the nightfall. So if he has completed his fast, so after that, from opening the fast until the next day, he has a lot of time to drink water, to eat, and to, there's no harm in it. So if he wants to keep him hydrated, he wants himself hydrated, so definitely he can do it. I don't think there's any harm. What do you think about that?
I think I definitely agree, Rabbi. I think it's a brilliant answer. Islam is a religion of ease. Although one thing I would potentially highlight is the position of the water bottle during the salat as well. During the namaz, it should not be placed in a position where it is diverting the attention of the other believers to your water bottle or your concentration on the hydration. Also, I think there shouldn't be a Assalamu alaikum and then suddenly a desperate search for the water bottle. Of course, I think the rest of the whole...
And there's an also interesting thing. I remember that the word Tarawih, it is the the singular is Tarwihatun. And the people say that why this name was, given. They say that after every 2 rakat or after every 4 rakat, Imam, he would sit there and he would have a kind of drink, and then he would continue and his, the next part of the Tarawih. So
Yes.
Tarawih mean, what we say, a kind of rest. That he has at Tarawih is basically the interval when he is resting between two prayers, two rakat prayers, and unit of 2 rakat basically. So this is also, you can say, the name contains the idea that yes, he can drink water between 2 intervals.
I think we're going to see a lot more bottles of water at the next Tarawih prayers, inshallah.
But keep clear, that is also part of it, that it should be outside, that if he will bring it in the mosque, so definitely, as you said, that there might be a diversion. The people can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jazakumullah. Ayasad, a question's come in from Amar Ahmed from London. And this is something which is to do with Ramadan, but it's also a very general question. I think many people have had this question before, and it'll be wonderful if you can shed some light on this. He says, what should be done with old copies of the Quran that have, for example, pages loose, or from the ones that children have been using? When they are no longer in a state that they can be used properly, should they be kept, or is recycling allowed? And if it is allowed, are you aware of any systems within the Jamaat of collecting old copies or recycling them?
Jazakallah. I'm not aware of any formal depository or system of collecting old copies of the Holy Quran and then disposing of them, but I know there are ways to do that. This is something that we can do ourselves as well. The main thing to understand is that we should ensure that nothing is done which is disrespectful to the text of the Holy Quran. So again, throwing it in the recycling with other paper is not a very ideal thing to do. It shouldn't be done, in fact, because that paper isn't, it's put through different processes which aren't always very proper. So if we take a full sheet of paper and put it in the recycling, that text of the Holy Quran will perhaps go on the floor. Maybe it will come under somebody's foot, something. So the thing to do is either to the first thing to do is to learn bookbinding, and then when your papers become loose, then you can just sort of fix your own volumes. But until that, if that's not possible, I mean, make a hobby out of it, right? Some DIY, learn how to bookbind. But no, that jokes aside, that is one possibility. But of course, then the other possibility is to ensure that the papers which we want to recycle, they are shredded, and they are shredded so finely that the text of the Holy Quran is no longer visible, because then it's all right to put them in the recycling. And those pages should be kept separately and then disposed respectfully once they have been finely shredded and the text is invisible. The other thing we can do is burn those pages of the Holy Quran. This was a way which was used in the old times as well. In fact, just while it just came to me that Hazrat Usman radiallahu anhu, when he was preparing standardized copies of the Holy Quran in his Khilafat, based on the Hafs Qiraat, there was various other recitation styles of the Holy Quran, and they were present in printed form. So Hazrat Usman radiallahu anhu had all of those collected, and then those copies were burnt, and then they were disposed. Again, burning essentially disintegrates or gets rid of the paper on which, or the scroll upon which the Quran is written, and then the words are no longer visible. And then those ashes can be disposed of as well. And this is something which we can easily do in garden centers and in different places. Those gray cans are readily available, which people burn other things in. So that can be kept specially for this purpose. And then if there's any paper that we have which accumulates every so often, we can put it separately in one of those burning bins and then burn them. And then those ashes can be disposed of. But again, this must be done in a very respectful manner. I know in our Rakim press, I have random papers personally which have verses of the Holy Quran and Ahadith. I just make a pile of them, and every so often I take them to the press, and the press will shred them, and they have a special bin in which no garbage or rubbish or any other kind of text or papers are put. Those bins are specifically for pages which have verses of the Holy Quran on them. And then those are respectfully disposed of. So again, there are possibilities, but we can do this ourselves as well.
Bookbinding, garden centers, Rakim press, and shredders. I think that's a good summary of that answer there. Jazakumullah asnal jaza. Mansoor Ziasab, this is a question which we have, I don't think we've discussed before on this particular show, but it is coming in from a sister, Kanta Saiba, who asks, can we offer Tarawih prayer in sets of 4 rakat as opposed to sets of 2 rakats?
Yes, there are 2 ways to perform Tarawih prayer or Nafal prayer or Tahajjud prayer. And those 2 ways, they have been approved by the Holy Prophet ﷺ and practiced by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. So there are 2 different narrations I would like to share with my audience. One is about Hazrat Ibn Umar Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu. That is the most popular one. Hazrat Ibn Umar Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu relates that a person asked the Holy Prophet ﷺ that, Holy Prophet ﷺ, how should I pray in the night? Or the Tahajjud prayer or the Nawafil. So Holy Prophet ﷺ replied that Salatul Layli Masna Masna, that you need to pray this offer namaz in the set of 2. And 2 is basically, this is a 1 unit. So Holy Prophet ﷺ gave him this idea, and he said that I practice it, this thing. And this is the narration of Hazrat Ibn Umar. But there is another narration that has been narrated by Hazrat Aisha Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anha. And she basically, she was witness to every prayer that Holy Prophet ﷺ used to offer. And she said, once a person asked that, Kaifa kanat salatu Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam fi Ramazana, and it is particularly in Ramadan, that how Holy Prophet ﷺ used to pray in Ramadan. قالت ما كان يزيد في رمضان ولا في غيره على 11 ركعة. She replied that Holy Prophet ﷺ would offer the night prayer only 11 rakat. He would not increase or decrease the number of the rakat. But she said that فَلَا تَسْأَلْ عَنْ حُسْنِهِنَّ وَطُولِهِنَّ, that do not ask me that how prolonged he used to, how beautifully he used to offer those prayers. And then he said, Yusalli arba'an, that he used to pray for the set of 4 rakat in one go with 1 salam, but he would sit between after the 2 in the qada. And then he said, Summa yusalli salasan, and then he would pray. Holy Prophet ﷺ would pray. He would combine 3 rakat with 1 salam. I mean, with the he will join basically 3, and 4. He would join 4 rakat, then take a rest, then join 4 rakat, then take a rest, and then join 3 together. So basically, both ways are approved from the Holy Prophet ﷺ. So we are free whether we want to adopt the 4-1, I mean the set of 4, or whether we want to adopt the set of 2. Both are approved, but mostly the practice is on the set of 2. So we need to, I mean, mostly we practice it here, but it is not, I mean, the other thing is also approved by the Holy Prophet ﷺ. We can adopt that method also.
I see. Thank you very much for that. Ayaz Sahab, the next question reminds me of a very good mutual friend of ours, Mukarram Mansoor Malik Sahab. And the question is coming from Mubashir Sahab. He asks, what is the ruling on fasting in countries such as Iceland, where it can reach approximately 22 hours? What is the correct way of dealing with fast in that situation?
Yes, Mansoor Sahib. There are certain countries where the day becomes so long that there's only an hour or 2 or a few, and in some places we have a constant period of darkness and a constant period of light on the horizon, and that is because of the specific geographic positioning of those countries. So in that respect, of course, where we don't have a standard sunrise and sunset, and it becomes very difficult to fast according to the sunrise and sunset, the instruction is that the closest country nearby where the horizon is such that the sun rises and sun sets in a more standard way, we are permitted to set our specific times of suhoor and iftar so that we can fast in a more systematic and regular way. Because of course, in a country where there is constant darkness for many months, or where it's constantly light and there's no sunset, how will those people fast? Of course, in those extreme circumstances, and those specific, rather, the word is not extreme, rather specific circumstances, the religion of Islam, again, is one which gives ease, and it is a pragmatic, logical religion. And so those countries should set their own times for suhoor and iftar according to the closest country where the horizon is visible and where there is a proper sunset and a sunrise, and then they should fast accordingly.
Great. Jazakumullah. Thank you very much for that. Again, a very logical answer.
I would also like to a little bit, the Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Khamis is saying, he said that, as Yasab said, that they need to set according to their own time zone. So Hazur said that you need to I mean, you can keep 5 to 6 hours, what we say, interval between Sehri and Aftari. So you can then manage according to this interval, 5 to 6 hours, and in this way you can read your prayers, you can read tahajjud prayers as well, and there will be enough distance between the two. Two meals also.
I see. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. That's a very interesting answer. I think it's many of the questions that have been asked today again are those that have been coming up again over the past few years and the past few months. But again, it is always good for us to remind ourselves and to refresh our knowledge on these questions during the month of Ramadan. That's all we actually have time for. Again, inshallah, we will be live with you next week again on Friday evening, inshallah, to answer all of your Ramadan related questions. Again, send them in via text, via video, over email or social media, via WhatsApp. Send us your questions however you want to send them in, and inshallah we'll get around to answering them live on the show. Again, a heartfelt Jazakumullah Ahsanal Jaza to both Mansoor Zia Sahab and Ayaz Mahmood Khan Sahab, and again to everyone who is viewing at home. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak.